once I said, hey, Elephant, here we go, and I did Caves, it became easier. But I don't wish that experience for me ever again. To be honest, it was brutal. Sorry. I'd say number one was Bob Marley. Number one. I felt compelled to, in that sense, the reason I think he was 2-1 anything else I listened to was because it really, he has this amazing combination of fight and love and positivity, and I think it's a really great thing to carry with you when you're in the middle of something like that. So I listened to a lot of Bob. After that, Everything in Transit was a big thing, mainly because I finished the record and I used the first month that I was in the hospital to resequence the record maybe 100 times. I was like, well, screw it. If I'm going to be in here, I'm going to make my album better. So even though I had finished mastering it, I went in. And you can ask anybody from the record company. It was like they must have just been kicking themselves because they couldn't come back and be like, you can't submit it anymore. You can't do this. We have to put the record out. And so I was like, okay, we need to change track 4 to track 6 now, and and they did it, and thank God for the Maverick and Warner folks for being cool about it. But so I listened to Transit a lot. It sort of was very cathartic for me, especially with all the lyrical references to being sick and all those things. I felt like I was in the middle of some sort of fated thing. So Transit was big. I listened to Death Cab, Transatlanticism on a loop many a day. Beach Boys, Pet Sounds was huge. I went back to the Counting Crows' first couple records and listened to a lot of those. A lot of the stuff I listened to kind of growing up was just Little Jimmy, a lot of, God, I'm trying to think of it. I just had it.
Britney Spears.
A lot of Britney. Yeah, Toxic was huge for me while I was...
how about the girl in the hat?
There's actually a scene that was in the movie where Andrew made a mix to listen to.
Did I cut that scene too?
During his radiation, we cut that out.
Listen to this guy over here, man.
I just gotta give him shit.
First, I just wanted to thank you, like everyone else has been saying, and what you do with that. Also, how everything goes back to the music. Do you almost, and like what you were saying before with Alex, do you feel like a pressure from it sometimes? Because I know, like, having met you a couple times, the only thing I ever wanted to do is thank you and vent and like go brunch and talk about it.
What are you doing
Are you available in the morning?
There must be a million meetings coming up to you all the time and like trying to.
I don't feel pressure from your side, to be honest. I don't. I mean, it can be intense. You know what I mean? There is a thing where it's like, I think that, and I've talked about it a lot recently because these solo shows that we've been doing have are extremely personal. And so there is an intensity in that relationship between myself and my fans. I feel blessed in the sense that I think more or less the reason it works is because I think it's more of an energy exchange than a here I'm providing a service like some guy on a TV screen and here you are, like you could throw quarters at me and it wouldn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that I'm lucky like that because there's a certain dialogue and a certain openness that it feels more familial or something. So I don't feel an immense amount of pressure, I think, in the audience. I think I feel a sense of obligation and that I want to do good for myself and for you guys and make good music. But I don't know that it would be any different if you weren't there. You know what I mean? I like that. I think that in the same sense that you guys hold me to a high standard, I hold myself to a high standard. I think I feel more pressure from myself, to match what I do last and to always be kind of one-upping myself. And I think that's where I get most of my pressure. But, there isn't much I can do to make that go away because that's just inborn, And if anything, I feel an intense sense of gratitude. And I think that's why we have this sort of kind of community here.
Josh and I felt a lot of pressure making the movie.
Yeah, you better.
From you, but also from the fans. I mean, seriously, because we had been to a lot of shows. We're fans of Andrew's music for a long time, and so we knew how devoted and his fans were. And so, as we were making the movie, we were like, oh, we knew if we did something, we could get called out for. But also, we put a lot of things in there, like for fans. Like you guys know what they are, but.
Plus, he would yell at us all the time on the phone, scream.
Who, me?
Wouldn't call us for weeks.
Oh, good.
It was actually
a very emotional period of time for all of us.
I have to say, it was actually you know, making an independent. I mean, I'm in the industry, so I get criticized a lot when I turn in work, and there's always someone who has an opinion. So I'm used to that. But working with him was a very organic process, and because he's creative, he completely understands that, you know, we're that way too, and that the art of making a movie is actually an art form. And he was really great with us, and we have to thank him for that.
I appreciate it. And we haven't really said it, and we should. But you know, Josh and Corey, I mean, they definitely put up with a good amount. We, you know, for the first couple of years of this thing, and I mean, it has been that long. You know, I couldn't really be objective in a lot of respects. So I trusted a lot of people to give notes and push this thing along. And you know, they struggled with a lot of back and forth feedback that went one direction, then the next direction. Then I'd wake up and I'd say, well, I want more of that, and then they go this way, and you know, it required an intense amount of trust. And I think that I definitely think these two dudes deserve a big round of applause for sticking with it. I'm sure we got time for probably a couple more. So.
Thanks some more people. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely all the Warner Brothers people who are here, especially Holly in the back. You see her in the movie, and she's one of the
she snuck out on us, but yes, she's in the shadows.
Some of Andrew's management's here. Thanks to you guys too.
Yeah, we have it was a big team that made this movie. It took a village. I mean, it was these guys who made it, but it was a huge support cast to it. So yeah, thank you to all you guys for sure.
Cool. I think we just have time for a couple more. So
yeah, let's.
So we're gonna have a contest to see who gets to. How about you?
You've talked about a little bit about things happening when they do for a reason, and I feel like Jack Manson was kind of referred to as like this little solo project that could sort of thing, and I just was curious if there's a moment for you when it became, when you realized that it was going to be more than that, and if it had something to do with the timing of when you got sick and when all this was going on, and if there was ever like a kind of like an aha light bulb moment for Jack Manson.
I don't know that it was so specific, but I think, it could have been as soon as that December 2nd show. You know, I think I knew pretty much immediately as I was well enough to spend the time, and it did become that. I think there was this idea that I would juggle both, legitimately. I thought that was a thing. As I got deeper into making the Jax record, it was so right. It felt so right, and it felt like what I was doing. It felt like the same reason that I started something corporate. This was the same reason I was starting Jax Mannequin, because it was speaking to my soul and it was really making sense of my art. So I think as soon as we started working the first Jax record, I knew immediately, because I was so in it. I was in it more than I'd been in almost anything in my life, But I do think that getting sick affected that, was a part of that, because they were really tied up together. It was really sort of a part of the same breath in a lot of respects. But it was probably in the early days of recovery and starting to work it. Yeah. All right, let's get Red. Of course. Well, I'm glad you liked it. Thank you. Breathing, really. It was, you'd be surprised at the power of a breath, you know what I mean, especially in a scenario like that. But it was a combination of that and just being surrounded by this the tons of love. There was so much love around this scenario that I felt even if we lost in the sort of physical sense, that there was no way it was going to be a bad thing, and I was a lot of just trying to work that stuff through and out of my body with deep breaths all the time. Over there, we haven't gone that way for a while. It wasn't really it wasn't exactly a decision. It was you guys probably know the band May, so the drummer Jacob Marshall from May, a close friend of mine. And Brett Brownell, who did a lot of the May documenting stuff and did a lot of their videography, they knew from just being friends of mine that I had been carrying a camera around with me since long before I even got sick, that I filmed so much stuff. So they originally brought the idea to me, sort of went through, cataloged the footage, and said, here, we think the story is here,